Okay. Hi there, guys. Sorry about hooking up a bit late today. Just got myself sidetracked and just had to make sure that everything was running smoothly today. We'll see how that goes. Hope you had a good weekend. All right, who have we got in today? I know there's probably going to be a few less today, but we'll plug through it. Due to me being a little bit late today. All right, let's get up and running. Now, welcome to TradeSetup and live stream. It's 27th. G'day, Paul. G'day, Murray. 27th of August. So anyone that's new or watches a bit later on, g'day, Lauren. How are you, mate? Got the usual suspects in. Three Stooges so far. Melbourne time, yeah. I'm already heading across to daylight savings, mate. Mentally, anyway. It's been some nice weather down here, anyway. Good weekend. Like I said, anyone that's new, you will see us at the top left-hand corner, trade_setup. That's on Twitter. Top right is Facebook, and the bottom right, link into us at TradeSetup on YouTube. There you go. And you'll get the alert that we go live. So from times like today, when I'm a bit late, you'll know for sure when we actually press the button to go live. YouTube will send you an alert or a pop-up or push notification. That's what I'm looking for. And our general advice warning just smack in the middle. Let's get to the flat today. Not a big night on the US, and actually, sorry, I'll take that back. Not a big night in Europe. It was pretty much flat, range bound, but the US actually didn't do too bad. They were up, not quite strong, but our SPY, I mean, if you go look at a SPY chart, anyone that does, we were talking about this on Thursday. Just have a look at the futures chart if you can get a hold of that. We've got one on our Trade Direct platform. Just have a look, and you can see from where it closed at 4 and where it closed at was about 8 at 7:30, 7 o'clock Saturday morning. It didn't really move too much. So the SPY did not go up with it. I think we initially, when we opened up for the night session, sold down through Europe and then bounced a bit. So it was more choppy on the SPY, which just means that the people are not too confident in jumping back in just yet or loading up on risk, because the last few sessions, don't forget, overnight, when people did jump in, the market's pushed higher, and then on the open of the day session, the ASX hasn't gone on with it. So you would have expected, say, the ASX to open up 20. I think it was the last few sessions when the US rallied and the SPY rallied with the US. It's actually opened up flat. So there was a lot of selling into the SPY from people who are holding positions overnight. There is a bit of that going on anyway, using the SPY. They use it to hedge a bit overnight. If you've got a bigger portfolio, well, large fundies might use the SPY futures just to hedge off some of their portfolio. And they do play around with it a bit, but generally, if we're up 20 from 4 o'clock till the morning close, up 20 points on the SPY, we rallied 20, then we should open up roughly, give or take, 20 points on the ASX. But because of the political tensions, it just hasn't happened. All right, let's take a look at, I probably don't really need to go over the charts too much, but we will. The Dow ticking along nicely. How far are we? That's the S&P, sorry. So we did close in all-time highs. You can see the close, that was the 26th of January. So that was the most recent all-time high. And that's, we capitulated after that. Closed at 28.72, and I think on Friday we closed at 28.74. So that's a new all-time high close on the S&P. So we'll see if this trend can just continue chugging its way higher. Let's get rid of all that. Let's get rid of that. All right, we're right to go. So it's still looking quite positive. You had that big washout at the start of the year, cleaned out a lot of buys on the S&P, and it started, we based out at around 25.50 thereabouts. Retested those lows, and we've been heading higher since, so that's looking quite strong. We're getting extended to the upside. You can see on the stochastic, so buyers are really putting on the pressure. So it's just whether or not, we've spoken about this recently, whether or not we wash that out, that high. I mean, it's closed up there, whether we spike today and then finish back below it tonight. We don't know. We just have to wait and see. Yeah, that could just keep ticking along nicely, like we've got this sort of trend. But the problem is there's still quite a few headwinds over there. Trump, I don't know if he's going to get impeached, but there's a bit of talk around there, whether the market caves in there. The US dollar's headed south because which is probably not bad for equities, and that's probably what they're looking at. If you've got headwinds from don't know, trade talk and a few other headwinds on growth. Growth is then becomes contained, which means the Fed Reserve are not looking at inflation as strong, so they don't have to keep it in line by raising rates. So they're looking at 2 by this year, maybe another 2 next year. They might be dropping off. I think they're starting to change their tone or change their talk. If inflation keeps within their target, there's no longer, and it sustains there, there's no longer really a need to tighten with rate rises. So they might drop off on a few. That's why you got, I think they were talking about it on the weekend. He's changed his tone. Is it Powell? The way what he was saying about inflation and their view, they're still happy at a slow pace because his tone has changed. The US dollar sold off, which was a bit unusual considering that they're looking at raising rates. So I hope that all makes sense, which means this, all said, this could just keep chugging away. The S&P keep grinding higher. It might be less action in the market, but it could just keep grinding higher. Um, let's go on. So we'll see. That's the S&P, the Dow. That could be trading up to all-time highs. It's going to take some time. Just sticking that up a bit. FTSE, not much has changed there. They're still looking a bit. I think they're looking a bit rougher than normal. That's looking more of a washout, potentially lower high there. They could have a deeper correction, but it's all about this, 77,071, where they can hold up there. We might get another year like last year. It just sort of to hold on to any gains. If you bought it at the start of the year, you would barely break even by the end. So it doesn't look quite as good. They've still got Brexit issues, whether or not they're going to have a deal at the end of it with the EU. The DAX looking a bit heavy to me. You would have seen when we've got that level through there at 12,000, it's washed out that level, it's popped up. So this might be a prelude. So a lot of times when you get a washout, it's either just a complete washout and it stops and reverses on everyone and then squeezes everyone out in the opposite direction, whether it's a washout to the downside like we've got here, and then the market turns around and squeezes all of these short positions that are built out, squeeze them out and just keeps on going strong. Or it's a bit of a prelude. It's clearing the way for another rollover, which at the moment, the DAX could be doing. I mean, we don't know that yet. It's got a lot of work to do, or this is going to hold up. So if it starts taking out this level, what is it, around lows of 12,120, 120, then you suggest that these lower highs are really going to start pressuring the market. And this is a bit of a, like I said, it's a prelude to a deeper correction. That deeper correction you take from high to low, take from the high, take us somewhere around 250. So another 1,000 points away potentially. If that, it can extend on the downside, but if it gets a bit of a run on, yeah, it's a different story altogether. It could go a bit deeper. So that's it. ASX. I mean, really, the weekly trend hasn't changed at all. We're getting a bit overextended up here. You see the stochastic starting to roll over, sellers starting to come in, especially after last week, all that argy-bargy. So now I guess I'm not much into the politics. Personally, I think they're a bit of a joke. Anyone's going to get paid for just having a big argument, having a bit of a nap in when the session's in Parliament. That would be great, having to sit back in the back bench, having a bit of a snooze and getting paid 100 grand for it. Um, so yeah, we obviously got a prime minister that was, but even after it was announced, it had a bit of an initial kick up, then it sold off again into the close. So I think it's just people. We've got political issues over here, which I guess now it's about him. I don't even remember the prime minister's name. It's about him building a cabinet or building his again, putting all the people in place, what jobs they're going to get, I can never remember what you call it, what portfolios they're going to get, building his base there, and then start to get together, start talking about what he's going to do, what his plans are for the economy, what his plans are for the country. So I guess that's going to take some time to play out, and that's probably why we got that little sell-off into the close, because there's still a bit of work to do. It's just the fact that, and it's probably going to keep away, I would assume, from what I've read, it's going to keep away outside investment into Australia for a while. Could be usually there to support our country, which may have been gone for, or may be gone for a while, and that may lead to, anyone that's looking at that sort of thing, just looking to hold. If you held some positions the last few months, you might be just getting a bit sick of it. Now we're sort of down towards that support zone at say 62.50. Anyone that's holding on to a good gain there, they might just want to close out because of all the headwinds that we're facing potentially, and then you've got the global headwinds stacked on top of that. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen the next few days. It's mainly the daily chart that I've got my focus on. You can see that we have gone from overbought to oversold down here, so that selling pressure has been quite heavy, and it was over a couple of days. Are we going to get held up here, supported in this level, and whether we might pop back up to 63, build a lower high, and have a deeper correction? But that's all got to do with your daily charts, because the weekly is still heading higher. It might be time for some heat to come out of those weekly charts or the longer term buys, as they had a bit of a correction lower, and then a higher low than 6,000. Say, if we just do that, we take a bit of heat out of the market and we start to build again, and it starts to base out, and we start to get everyone coming back into the market. And again, there's going to be a lot of some time going past or going through the market, and I think it gives time for there's a lot of charts. If you just flick through the charts, a lot of them maybe have a fair bit of work to do or are getting extended. So it would sort of tie into that as well. For a lot of ones that are extended, the heat coming out of the market, that's obviously pressure on the overall index, depending on what they are. I think with the banks, looking at the banks, I was reading something I think on the weekend that a lot of people, obviously we know that they've got to write off some of the debt, or they're going to have a few debt issues, but um, how much they have to factor into well, to pay off different issues they've got with the banking set, with what is it called again? The forget what that word is now. But anyway, we all know what we're talking about. The Inquisition, I'd like to call it. But yeah, so people might be skeptical about putting on risk into the bank. You'd be thinking it's more bargain hunting at the moment than anything else. So if we just go, let's just take a look at the bank while we've got a chance. WBC, they got hit the other day, gap down. Actually, from open to close, they rallied, but it gapped down. I don't know if there was anything else. It was down 2 to 2.5%, I think, on Friday, whereas the other banks didn't get hit so hard. Just go back to best fit. So that's all right. So the banks, you get WBC, which is coming down to another potentially buy zone. And what I don't mind with this, they might get choppy. I wouldn't expect them to take out that. I wouldn't expect WBC to take out, say, 27.50 or 27, for instance, and just continue lower. If you go to the weekly, it's quite a big sort of a support zone through 27.28, and it has reacted off there. Previously back in the start of 2016, rallied up, and it's worked its way back down there again, broken through 28. But it still is that zone where we might see some buyers start to edge into the market. And also, if you go back to the daily, the market's held down with lower highs. So the most recent one was up around that 30 mark. Now it's pushed up off that 27.50 zone, pushed up to retest there. So it may just get sort of caught between that resistance and support zones. Just channel trading for a while until it works out its issues. That's WBC. I think the other banks, we've got that 70 mark on, which did react quite nicely. I think it reacted, was that Friday, to a T, 70, bang, on the mark. The low was 70 on Friday, and it reacted quite positively off that zone. And we've tested it again today, sometime during the intraday action. We tested down, got down as low as 10, 70, 10, and reacted back up. So there's been buying back up off that zone. So it'll be interesting to see if this can hold up and whether we can pop back up and you get a bit of a squeeze, a higher lows pressure the lower highs. So the buyers pressure and sellers come into a point of agreement. And then I might be looking for a bit of a long on the CBA, for instance. I think CBA might be in a different boat to others, the other banks or the other majors, because they pretty much go, here you go, here's everything at the start. A long time ago, here's our problems we've got, here's our issues we're facing. They've been fine, so they sort of took their medicine pretty quickly. Whereas I don't know with, say, NAB still, they're looking at fighting, I think, the last I heard, or arguing that, they haven't done anything bad. I don't know, there's some news out on them, so I think their lawyers are on the case at the moment, arguing the point that they said they didn't support their clients, or they didn't provide the right service to their clients, or the right whatever it is. So they're starting to fight that. So there's still probably going to be some negative undertones to NAB and ANZ. That's a good healthy correction. And we're going, if you look to the daily, ANZ, I don't mind the ANZ chart much at all. We've had that press down, that pop back up, that lower high and longer term, and then it's been edging its way lower. You got this one pop up, two moves down, which took us to around that 26 mark. We've reacted back off. So if we start getting, I think it's going to take a few weeks to work out, a high low start coming into play, on ANZ, then I'd be looking towards a potential buy opportunity. G'day, Alan. All right, that's it. Let's take a look at. Let's have a look at what we got. I should just close out. So today, for anyone that had been oscillating between some gains and losses on that, let's just go to. Let's put this on another chart. And it's for me, we've had this big move up on Blackmores, this big move down, a good solid long-term base. We took opportunity, I think it was through 133. We had a good little win with this move up here. And then since there, that was at the start of May, June. It's been backing off and consolidating. It has held a higher low, then started to press up, but then it's pretty much retested this high, with this most recent push up. Let's just get my little screen snapshot. Okay, good for you. Discard. Let's try that again. Computers don't like me today. All right. So that's our move up, and it's pulled back. We've got this little high low that's built, but then I would have expected this market to kick on. At this point, I was looking for this market to press higher and start pressing up towards that 170 mark. But instead, we fell short and we pretty much retested that 155 zone. We got up to 155 and started failing again. And then what we're seeing is we've built a minor higher low at around 143, say, 143, it was thereabouts. We backed off to 143, retested, but then this could, at the moment, it could either be, we could get continuation higher, back up through 155, and then, okay, I'm wrong. But to me, it's just showing too many signs. I'd rather than sit around and wait to get stopped out. I'd rather just take it off at the moment with the market that, it's stretched on the daily as well. We're getting stretched up here. On the weekly, it's stretched sort of that overbought zone. And if we're getting stretched and we've got a double top we're facing, essentially a double top, that retest, and potentially this third time up there going towards that zone, we're running out of steam a bit earlier. To me, that's a bit of a sign that we're going to get a lower high coming into place, which would mean we're going to trade straight down through that support, and we would have got stopped out. If all that plays out, and don't forget, I think tomorrow, all right, Lawrence just popped it up too. Tomorrow is earnings. So I didn't want to fight it with that structure. Just looking at it going, we could be facing earnings. What if they come out, like we got caught, stopped out of, I can't remember what it was the other day, PME? No, it was something else. Oh, Domino's, DMP. Stopped out of that and then thing turned around and took off again. I'd rather be on the sidelines than wait for a new entry. If we have to re-enter, we have to re-enter. But if it does come out bad and this thing topples over and we not only take out that little minor inside level here at 143, we start attacking 135. I'd rather be just out and watch it. If we do pop up from here, you might just put a buy and stop just above 155 and see if we can follow it higher if it comes out with good earnings. But to me, it's just not enough buyers on the sidelines ready to jump in just yet. If they're holding back, that's fine. Which would mean if they're willing to hold back, there's got to be a reason, and that's going to drag in some more selling, probably coming into earnings. Maybe today we get a bit. We have seen that choppy action today, sort of pushing higher. It's above 150, and then it's back down again. So my wife just dropped me a note. So she's going out. My daughter's staying home, so the menace is home with me. All right, so we've got that's BKR. We're taking a position off there. Booked a little gain. Happy to just book a little gain and then reassess it. Now the others we got out of main MYX on Friday. That had a good pop up. Let's just show. And I hope for anyone that did have it, got out, managed to get out about above 125, like we were saying. I think at that stage it was oscillating between 125, 126, and 130. It was trading below there when we sent the alert out just to close it, because when it gaps up that hard, I would rather, take your gains and get out when it gaps up. And you can see on the daily, it's gapped up at 135, pushed above 140, and then pretty much proceeded to get sold off from there. So it wasn't just myself booking the gains when they're there, but when you get it gapping up that high, I'm always inclined to book it, to take the trade off, because sitting on, I think it was about 40% gain on, or 46%. Let me just check where we were at that stage. MYX, I've got my data here I'm looking at. So it was closed out at 125 for 36.6%. So you can imagine when it was above 140, it was more like 40 something percent gainer on that. So I'd rather just, you're looking at a gain like that, just close it and just see what happens after that, because a bit of gap close, which pretty much nearly happened in happened in the same session, pretty much all the way back down to nearly the previous close of 105. Yeah, 105. Then we've tested down there today. We traded 105 and we're up at 113 again now. So whether we start building another entry setup, which we'll just keep an eye on, and then hopefully that's below 125 and we get another crack at it. Otherwise, I think that has just dragged out a lot of buyers and put them back on the sidelines with that little gap up. So that's it for main. So the only other ones we got is TERs, which is, it was above, pushed up to nearly 157. Sorry, 57 cents a trade today, as high as that. So we got in somewhere around 52. We're looking at continuing higher. The structure's still, looking really nice, and it's a weekly. Spent a lot of time down here, say give or take around 25 cents. We've had that big press down, got down to the lows. Where was it? Somewhere around 5 cents. Started to lift, pushing back down to around 20 cents, where it started lifting again. Probably makes a bit more sense to show you. Oh, here we go. So that was a 5 cents. Then lifted. Then it started to retest down at 20 cents. So it's building that higher low on the weekly charts and started to lift. So it took out this zone through 40 to 45 cents, which is great. So that's a good positive sign. So this trend we're just looking to continue, and we've got our stop. Just raised it today, just to lock in a little bit less. So we've got 52 entry, 48 stop, and we'll just see how that goes. We'll just follow it up. Look for an opportunity to get out. Now the other one was CDA, which performed really nicely on Friday. It's backing off a bit today, which you would expect. We've got, I can never remember, we had our profit target, a partial anyway, at 340. So we'll just see if this can drag up to 340. We're going to take a partial on that. And then we're just from there, it's just really looking at an opportunity to raise the stop to lock in a little bit less risk and then just follow it up on its way. But that weekly trend, that's your daily there. It's looking quite solid. The fact that it's had this little press up, spent a lot of time, a good part of about 3 or 4 months consolidating through here, holding higher lows and then extend it back up again. I wouldn't mind this just kicking on a bit further. Maybe we'll have to, if it does kick up to say 330 again, and we're obviously watching it, potentially just taking off a partial there around 330, just lowering that partial from 340 down to 330. But it's, we're getting up to the highs around $4. So, but this, even if you're looking at just the weekly chart, so then we've got that daily, we had this consolidation through here, building that higher low, building that higher base for a new run up. But if you go back to the weekly, that's minor compared to what we saw pretty much through 2017. So the weekly had a good run up, consolidated, pretty much went sideways, holding a higher low around 2, then started to lift with higher, that inside higher lows off about 220 or thereabouts, and started to lift from there. So this leg up could have a lot more in it. It could be gearing up to push up towards $4, but we'll wait and see. So that's it, guys. I think that's all we got at the moment. This was TER was looking a lot better this morning when it was showing up 4%. Now it's only up 1.5, well, nearly 2%. So, all right. Without further ado, put in some charts. Chuck in anything you want to take a quick look at, and we'll just run through a few shares that we want to have an eye on, keep an eye on. There's not too much. We're still looking at 5GM, but today is not looking too healthy. It's looking like it's. I was hoping that was going to get an inside level. We've got. This is 5GM, by the way. JBH. We'll look at that. This 5G, and you had this run up, and this is a 5G network company, which you could probably guess from the name of the company. All right, you had this good run up to about 90 cents. Then we started edging away lower, press lower. Obviously, that quick sell-off when you got this good run up, there's going to be some profit taking opportunities. Just locking in some gains, whether they come early or whether they were from the float. I think it was probably from the float more likely, because pretty much if you got it in the IPO, you didn't have to wait too long, a few days before it started putting you into. Obviously, you were sitting on gains if it floated. Say it floated at 20 cents, you were sitting on about 5-cent gains at that stage. You're happy to give it a bit of room. Then it started lifting. So I would suggest the way it lifted up here, these probably would have been those IPO traders that got into cap raising, or even seed capital potentially at maybe half that price at 10 cents. If I'm just guessing on those prices, by the way. Then you got that, taking the opportunity just to book some gains, call it a day, and then maybe reassessing it or keeping a core position to see how it goes, if they still believe in the company or if they do believe in the company. You can never shy away from booking some gains. If you're sitting on 5 times your money, why not? Always a good idea. Then you started getting that sell-off, that constant sort of edge lower, and this is where you had to get anyone that's probably in at the IPO that wanted to be out with a gain, it's gone. Anyone that's happy to hold it is holding. And then this is just, that potentially just people edging out of the market that might have bought it in here, not in the IPO, but from when it was from the exchange, sorry, bought in here and starting to edge back out. Some good news. I think we had some good news. It popped it up, but it didn't continue with it. I wanted to see it just continue through 61, then get the entry, not much risk, and see if that good news can drag it higher. But instead, it's looking a bit negative at the moment. So we might have to see, just wait for that deeper correction, see if this level can hold up just above around that 51 mark. Otherwise, we've got a major zone through 42.5. It may just come down, retest 42, and then we're going to look for a higher low potentially to work from. But there's a lot of ifs and buts. I think 5G, and what I did like, and why we alerted this one, was we've got sort of price action you can see. So that's, to me, is looking more that the market's coming out of that contraction lower. Good little high low. Then we started to move up, looking for this top of move and look at the enter through there with minimum risk and see if we can press back up to that 90 zone. But at the moment, yeah, like I said, it's looking a little heavier, a little on the heavy side more than anything else. So we'll just keep an eye on that one. All right. So I just want to have some coffee before it goes cold. Now, what do we got? JBH. All right, JB Hi-Fi. Let's go to the weekly. Been watching this one for a while, and there's some good things and bad things about it. The thing is, on the weekly, if you look at that, let's draw out the weekly. Discard that. Now you've got a pullback, high low. Okay, pressed into new highs. This was way back in 2010, 2009. Come back down, retested the anchor. So nothing's broken on the monthly chart. It's still looking strong. A big press up, another pullback, higher low, higher low. We've got all this big move up here. So on the monthly, we've had this pullback. This is not your anchor just yet. Your main anchor is sort of way back at 14 bucks. So we're a long way off there. Don't forget it's a monthly chart, but still, this market's pressing higher. We've had this pullback, a bit of a pop up, a pullback. So we're retesting whether or not this is going to be the new anchor at 22. Now that technically the anchor is not confirmed until you get through those highs. Probably you could say getting through 29, then you confirm that that is an anchor, and then having to trade it from there and see what happens from there. But the monthly's going higher, and it's in a good zone too. The stochastic sort of popped up. You come back down. It's potentially, I think this is a good little zone to start anticipating that it's going to be a longer term high low. Go down to the weekly, it's a bit more clearer. You can see the zone through 22, 21.50, 22. It's a bit clearer it is showing some signs. So we've had this back off from the highs. I'll draw that up. That's what I've got here. So we've backed off here. Okay, that's good selling. You can't get through the highs with this little push up here. Okay, deeper correction. And then we've got dragging in some buys at that point. We've lifted. Okay, nothing's really confirmed just yet. Then we've come back down and retested that zone. And essentially say, was it 21.50, 22? Back down to test here, and you go, okay, that's going to hold up. That's a double bottom. You got people who like trading the double bottoms. Just buying it off that zone, bang, up we go. Broke that anchor. So this is your anchor to this downtrend. Okay, we've broken the anchor. But then we come straight back down and tested it. So that's sort of more the negative sign that I'm seeing at the moment. We're still struggling with those highs up around $30. And I wouldn't have liked to have seen, I think I was looking at more at this stage saying, okay, if this is your weekly chart, what you would want to see, or draw it in a different color. What I would ideally like to have seen is it press up from here. All right, start to build a higher low. We've got our double bottom. We've got the anchor broken. Everything's working in place, but you just didn't get that price action play out. Instead, we head all the way back down to retest 22. And we've reacted off 22. So up here, we're getting a bit extended up here. and potentially last time we extended was way up at 29. So it's looking a little bit negative. Whether it's just putting the squeeze on between buyers and sellers, but the problem, the buyers don't really look too confident, or longer term buyers are not too confident in holding it up at higher levels above 22, say 24, 25, 26. They're just happy to sit down at 22. If it comes down to 22, buy some more. Comes down to 22, buy some more. They've done it a few times now. Problem is the sellers are still stacking in and pressuring it down, back down to 22. They had a little bit of a run up here. They gave it a bit more room, bang, straight back down to 22 again. So what we have to do is keep an eye on from here. Obviously, if you're going to buy in here, the more it tested that zone through, say, 22, the more likely it's going to drag in some further buying. But what we want to see is the sellers run out of steam. Okay, and you might find that people are. Sorry, just wait a second, guys. All right. So can you still hear me clearly there? Yep, coming through. All right. So what we're saying, so you're going to see if the buyers have bought it, say, through 24, and they're going to have their stops below 22, and they're not getting much out of this trade, then they might start to close out and be forced to pressure back down. So you may have a few more buyers that have stepped in that may be forced to close out, depending on what their time frame is, where they want to hold it, how far they want to hold it, all that sort of thing. But yeah, this is what the weekly chart. The weekly chart is not giving me too much confidence yet. I want to see a higher low build, something like this, but up around 24, 25. I don't want to see. I haven't seen off the weekly any reason to buy it yet. Apart from we got this longer term holding off at 22. Hopefully, the more it tests there, the more buyers are willing to say, "Oh, if I'm looking to buy it around 18, doesn't look like it's going to get down there." So potentially, people are looking down here around 17, 18. This high low in here. Okay, like I'll buy it if it gets down there. And the more times they see it test here, test here, test here, they might have to reassess. They might have to reassess again. It's not going to get down there, and maybe buying it up at around 22. But if you're looking for entries off a weekly chart, I don't think it's set up just yet. I mean, and that's what I look for. I mean, I'm looking for that pressure down. You want to see it maybe retested here and then start to see it lift, maybe an inside level, and then start to lift so you know exactly where your risk is going to be. You've got your entry set up, you've got your high low, everything's in place, it's showing your signs of strength, and then buy it potentially into a rally and see if you can get it to push up through 30 this time. But if you go down to the daily, just looking from the daily time frame, don't forget the weekly's going to overbought, the daily's coming off overbought. So they're sort of conflicting at the moment. It's getting extended up here both on the weekly and the daily. It's showing signs that sellers want to step back into 27, 26.50, 26. So how far are they willing to go down if they want to get out? We don't know yet. So until even off a weekly, the daily chart, if we can pull back here and build a higher low, potentially 24, 25, I don't want to see just a push down and straight back up, in a couple of days price action. I want to see it's a solid move where it's getting soaked up. Any of that buying, selling pressure, keep pushing, and buyers just soaking it up at a higher level and willing to defend, say 24, 25, defend that level. And then you see that the sellers starting to come out of the market, they're giving up, or they've done their selling, they've done what they wanted to do, and they're out of the market. You've got less and less sellers on the sidelines willing to come in to get out or short it. And then you start to see the weight of buying pressuring the market higher. So that's ideally what we'd be liking to see on this one. But either way, for me, it hasn't set up yet. Maybe it's that, we've got that early sign. We've got that, again, 30s lifted off 30, pressured up to 26, but I want to see a high low. Because this could easily just do what it's done before. Bang, all the way down. And just drift down to 22 again. It may retest 22 and then up she goes again. Who knows? Or this time it could just go straight through 22 and have a deeper correction. But either way, I don't think the buyers and sellers have sorted themselves out completely. There's no real bias for me on this. AWC, let's look at that. Well, that's not it, is it? Okay. So that weekly trend is up. No real arguing that. You can see the high lows. It started with this pullback here. This is a macro correction. Pretty much the whole of the year to correct from the highs at $22 down to $1. And then it started lifting from there. High low here, high low, high low, high low, high low, high low. So that strength in buying is still pressuring up market. So at the moment, even when it was overextended through here, it continued to go higher. So it's not, then it run out of steam. You had that deeper correction. Stochastic's gone from overbought to oversold, so that's a good sign, but at a higher level. So buyers are soaking it up at a higher level, soaking up all the selling pressure. And then it started to lift again. So that was a good sign. Then we started to lift. So at the moment, we're sort of hovering on the weekly around that overbought territory. It doesn't mean it can't just pop up through, it was about $3, pop up through these highs. If it just goes up through here and you're going to buy it through, so this high at 297, so you've got to stop it, buy and stop at 3, great. Your risk is going to have to be down at 270, and you're probably going to take some pressure. I would assume you're going to take some pressure at some stage, but what you want to do is just really keeping clear of a macro correction again, or whether we're going to have a deeper correction. And that's what your stop's there for, I guess. So yeah, not much to say. I mean, that daily is still looking okay. I would, on a trend like that, I would rather take an inside level. And by inside level, I mean, just draw that. For anyone that doesn't know what we've been talking about, inside, so you had this run up, you had a pullback, so that's just a pullback. Could be on the daily or weekly, and then you just get this little pop up. I'd rather just inside level, so you get that. Maybe sellers are coming back in, but then you build another higher low and squeeze them out. You got your inside level here, so then if you go up to that $3 zone, you're gonna be sitting in profit, and you're not taking too much risk on it on that trade. But if you start reacting off that $3 and you're looking like it's showing some weakness, like it could potentially do, because we're getting back up to sort of that overbought zone. And don't forget that weekly is hovering and overbought. You've actually got some sort of buffer behind you on the trade. But as it's played out, I haven't really seen that. There's nothing too clear, so that's what I'm haven't even bothered with this AWC. But definitely that trend is it's heading higher. So not much to argue with you, Laurent. OFX got this one. Just looking at it, that probably caught a few people. It's a daily. That's a weekly. Obviously, this has caught a few people off guard. I don't know what happened there. What was that? There's a few presentations popping out there. General meeting. Have they come out with their earnings, corporate governance statement? 2018 results, investor presentation, dividend distribution. So that was out at May. So they had a few things pop up. I don't. It looks like it's more got to do with retiring non-executive director. So nothing serious there. In May, it was back in May. Results come out. So I think there's something coming out in OFX. Maybe it's just been out. Anyway, or maybe the results are coming out very soon. If anyone can put that into the chat just to confirm, that'd be great. Laurent, the results man, the fundamental guy, or Paul. So yeah, what we're seeing on the weekly is the potential, the good sign on the weekly, which would I like it. Let's just go back to one step just to see if it can. So that's pretty much all the data. All right, so we've built up enough steam to take out those highs. All right, so longer term, potentially on the weekly, that's what we're doing. So what are you looking for there? Essentially, that's our deeper correction. We've come back down. So it's about here. We've got our anchor. Our anchor level. So it's around that zone at 180. So what we've done, you can see that we had this press down. We just changed colors back to blue. Press down, pop up. So that's taken out the lows, or not the low, yeah, low at $2, broken $2, press down. So it's a lower high. We can see that. That's pressed down. Another pop back up. So the buyers keep trying, can't get anywhere. We press back down. So that's your anchor to the trend. This trend down, this move down is at around 185, give or take, 180, 185. And then we've come back up, retested that zone. So things are looking a bit more positive. When you get up and retest it without building a lower high, it's showing a bit more confidence. It's just that extra strength in buying that are coming off those lows at around 120. So it's just showing a bit more strength. We've come up and retested. We couldn't get through it there. Okay, come back down. And what we've done is really just retested 130. But it's on this move up that we've broken through 180. I wouldn't say I don't like that specifically. Just take that one step back. So we've taken that little pop up there because this is all really part of that one daily move. You can't say this is a weekly pullback. Look, it would have been nice in hindsight to buy into it off that 170, but I don't see anything for me. We'll look back in the dailies in a second. But that's, for me, this is sort of part of one move on your weekly chart anyway. We're still edging higher on the daily. We haven't broken down this leg up on the daily, so that's a good sign. Either way, the weekly's showing that potentially this is on the rise for the weekly. We're looking for a weekly pullback, going down to your daily charts to find the entry. Is that making sense? So showing some good signs on the weekly. Potentially this is your, one push up, pull back, buyers buying it off two, we pop back up, couldn't get through those highs and continue through 350. Selling coming back in, that's your secondary move down, a deeper correction, and potentially that deeper correction is over because we just broken through that anchor at around 185. All right, so if we go into the daily, and just seeing if we can get, just get that. I'd either, here we go, see this pullback, but at say 190, 180, 185, whatever it may be, stochastics go down to sort of that oversold territory. It's at a higher level than last time it was in oversold at 170, 50% potentially if you're a Fibo guy, Fibo person, man, woman, you're looking at a 50% retracement. And then from there, you're just looking for your entry setup and see if you can enter. That's your high low on your weekly, high low on your daily. Sorry, high low on your daily more than anything else. And you've got a continuation of this leg up, of this daily leg up, or this weekly leg up from way down here at around 130 or so. Does that make sense? So I'd be looking for a pullback to bring in, to just build my entry for me, but I want to see a higher level. Like buyers stepping into that pullback, maybe pop up, then buyers stepping in at slightly higher level. And again, that's that inside level. I find it very hard to buy if you got that pull off a pullback here and it goes straight up. I don't buy just in here on a couple of green candles. I'd rather see evidence of buying because you don't know if that's going to be that secondary move down. We're going to get that little green candle, then you pop up. Say something like this, you buy here, you get a couple of green candles and it goes to a lower high and you get a deeper correction because you could get stopped out if your run stops, of course. But if you don't, you're risking just being completely wrong on this and heading down to 130, sitting there for 2 years and away you go with a loss against you. So if you do run stops and you buy it here and you've got your stop below the low, you're just risking without this type of setup that this could have that deeper correction. Still hold, maybe go down to 180 at deeper correction, then start to build. And then you just look for another entry again, if that's the case. So that's why I'm always looking for something like this, where you've got this type of action, where you've got that pullback, high, low, inside level, and then boom, up we go. We've got minimal risk, and then you're looking to target that continuation. Otherwise, with this strategy, or with this type of entry, you're probably just going to buy it straight on that breakout through, it'll be through 210 at that stage, through 210 with your risk way down here, which potentially could be, look, if you're happy with that risk, great. If you're not, just looking to refine your entries a bit more. All right, so that's that. A2M. Oh, this one won't come up. Hey, it did come up. No, this is looking a bit more positive now. I think for me, early stages, I would want to see obviously my higher low. I haven't got that just yet, but this is one for me. It's definitely on the cards. It's on the radar. Just draw that up. It's pretty clear. You've got this higher level on your weekly. Just flick it back to your weekly charts. Big blowout there. You've had to have, or it's bound to have a bit of a correction there. That macro correction in here. So we're really trying to anticipate, are we coming out of that macro correction lower on the weekly chart from the highs at around 14 bucks? Or is this going to continue lower? At the moment, nothing's really confirmed, but odds on it's looking to be coming out because we're getting up towards that anchor at around 1150, which you can see up here. We'll show you on the daily anyway. Stochastics are in place. We've had this big pullback down to 9 bucks. We're in oversold. We tried to pop up, back down to oversold. Buyers are definitely supporting that level just above 9, and we've lifted off 9 again. But from the weekly, from the chart we're just looking at, potentially the daily, it hasn't confirmed just yet. And I think that would be my anchor. I know I would like to see it pop up, pull back, whatever it does, and then look for my entry off once it gets up through this level at 1150. I mean, if it goes on without me, I know I'm always running the risk with my style of trading and what I'm looking for, that I'm going to miss the boat. But there's always going to be something you're going to be able to jump on board. No doubt, there's lots of stocks out there you can jump on. You don't have to be on A2M. just because you've been watching it for so long. You can, if you miss it and you spend a month or two watching it, so what? Get on to something else. And I'd ideally be looking for that kind of setup again. Yeah, pop up through your anchor, back down, look for my high low, and just rinse and repeat. Even if you're sticking to one top of entry setup, you're going to find more than enough. To get a 5 or 6 good trades on the ASX anyway. If all your criteria match, if they don't match on one, so be it. I mean, there's different ways to enter. You could have just entered, well, not really through that because it didn't. That was your minor high low. But for me, this was a little bit too early. There's nothing to say it's worked out okay, but nothing to say that you were going to get caught in this squeeze lower. This could have stopped it around, broken in. You got in on this red candle. Probably a bit clearer if we just go. Oh, there we go. So that's that red candle. You got in here, and then it sort of just you got in because it's a breakthrough that you've got your little minor high low, but we haven't broken out a contraction at that stage. And then say it we just popped up, we held that downtrend, this downtrend, we popped up here and just head south and took out 9. I mean, that was the risk you're running on getting on that entry, but you're going to get stopped out at say 9.10. You might have your stop below $9 just as a bit wider. You've got your high low. It's just that final sort of ingredient you haven't got through the contraction lower. It hasn't finished contracting just yet, but now we can see that it has. So it sort of goes for me now. I know we've headed up, we pull back. When you're breaking up out of that contraction lower, it's a good sign that there's buyers starting to step in. The buyers want to soak up the selling pressure. You built that higher low on the longer term charts, and then it could be the start of a new leg higher. Now, if it holds up below, or holds below 1150, you could go into a range trading type of scenario. So if you bought it there, okay, so be it. You might just range trade, or you might chop around through here and then bang down the track, have a decent pullback, back through 9. But that's why I always like to see that push up. If I can draw my in a different color. So this is 1150 I've just drawn here. So that's my 1150 mark. That's why I want to see it break up through there and then build a higher low. Then I've just got that extra bit of confidence that the market's starting to lift. We got buyers. I'm not the only one thinking the same thing. We've got buyers willing to soak it up, buyers that are willing to have a punt that's going up to $14. Fundamentalists that think it's a cracking trade that are willing to support it and jump in, thinking they should be valued a lot higher. So that's what you get by waiting for that type of price action. But if we don't break through the anchor and we pushed up into that anchor and you bought it here, we might just go into a bit of a range trade scenario. Like I said, we might wash that out, pop back up and just go, and you don't know how long that's going to play out. I mean, or we might not. You might buy it off that low, that's fine, and just start range trading it. Or holding some that if it does break out of the range, it just keeps going, so be it. That's all right. Does that make sense there, guys? I'm hoping so. But either way, this one should be on the cards. Just keep an eye on it for sure. What have we got now? SAR, Saracen. I've always liked this one. Done well on this one in the past, but haven't traded it since. Good work, Gino. Murray. So this longer term is heading higher. We've had this press up, and probably if you go to the monthly, it's a bit clearer. This original press up, and that's spent a lot of time doing nothing through here, chopping around, and a bit of a run up here, below $1, straight back down again to the lows, around 10 cents. This was the first time we really started getting the move on, and this was back in 2016. So go to the weekly, that move up here. That's your pullback, good healthy correction, probably maybe 50%, over 50% of this move up. Okay, back down again, pop up, that's a good little sign. And you've got your inside levels here. You can start trading off these inside levels as the market looking like it's on the rise. And I think we potentially traded it here. We potentially traded it in 2016. I can never remember. We might have traded this leg up here, which was looking good. But anyway, what you've got longer term is the charts are heading higher. Look what you've got. I just noticed it there. This has had a good healthy leg up, a good correction. So on the weekly, we're down in that oversold territory. All right, so a lot of heat's coming out of there, but the price hasn't moved too far. It's gone from 230 down to about 190. Considering what's going on, it hasn't moved that far at all. So that's a good sign of buying pressure. Buying pressure just soaking up that selling pressure at higher levels. So you can see stochastics are saying, okay, the selling pressure is pretty heavy from overbought to oversold. but buyers are soaking it up. They're not letting it too far. They're not willing to wait or risk that they want to get in at 140 or 150 down here and sitting on the bid down there because they believe that it may not get down there. So they're just going, look, I'm just jumping in at 170. I'm going to take some at 190, and if it starts rising, I might add to my position. Or if it starts coming down, I'll edge into my position on the way down. But that's sort of the general mindset of what they're looking at potentially. I'm not saying I know what they're thinking, but I like to think I know what they're thinking. So, yep, the market's headed up to 230. We retract off that level back down to below 190. So now I don't see an entry at all just yet. For me, it's just when's this correction gonna finish? We know the weekly is saying that potentially somewhere around here because we're in that oversold territory. Let's get on Paul's little. No, that's not what I wanted. Where is it? Swing. There we go. Oh no, how can that come through? Oh, there we are. So even I've been looking at this a bit recently. MACD sort of run ahead of itself here. We might be coming back down on the stochastics, but the MACD might be a bit of heat coming out there. It's nothing to say it's come back down, edge towards zero, and start to lift again as buyers. Momentum starts to pick up again. So it's just a bit of heat coming out of that market there. So we're anticipating really this is the point where it could turn around, and we're looking at mainly the stochastics, and look at the stochastics on the daily as well. They're oversold down here. The MACD's below the zero line, it's sort of in that sell zone, but you can see with the red and blue line coming in together, it's looking like the momentum starting to shift and starting to lift. It doesn't mean I wouldn't buy it. I'd like to see this in the above zero for a buying opportunity, and then looking for my setup. But yeah, everything's looking like potentially this is the zone, or this is the area where we could expect buyers to step in and rally price. But for me, maybe we don't need to draw it. Well, let's just draw it. For me, it just hasn't set up yet. Yeah, that makes more sense. It's just this candle on that day spiked straight up to 230 and straight back down again. So it's sort of finished below here. I'll be inclined to be looking at something here, and I want to see that 185 zone hold up. That has to hold up for me. And then I want to see, obviously, we've got to push up through two, so it's a bit choppy. I want to see it lift through two and then pull back and build my highlight. Same old story. It's pushed up through there, pull back, and then a bit of work. I just want to see maybe a bit of work put in and see if we can get a higher low the longer it takes, the stronger that higher low is going to be, and the more buyers it's going to drag in. That's what I'd ideally not to see, not just bang up and off she goes. There's not much strength in there. If it just a couple of days it reverses and straight back up again after breaking two, I'd rather see this. And then it confirms this is a weekly high low at 185. Then you've got your daily high low you're working from, and see if you can run price up through 230 and see if you can just continue from that longer term weekly charts. But that's that. BHP is looking like it's popping up. Don't like this rejection through that into that new high above 35 and a gap down the next day. I think it could attack. It has to hold up at 32 bucks if I wanted to buy this in the near term. And I've looked at S32 a lot recently, and it just didn't play out at all. It just kept selling off, lower highs, pressuring the market lower. But what you're getting on that weekly, that push up, it was trending high on the weekly. Your most recent high levels at higher lows at 28. That's your anchor for this move up here. This move up, we're just talking about that. Go back to the daily. This move, that's run out of steam, but it's consolidating at that high. So there's a good chance if we can get a higher low to work from above 32, and meaning that I'll draw it. And it's showing some good signs. It's just whether or not, excuse me, it plays out. So that's your weekly level. That's your run up. That's pulled back, and we're starting to find buyers supporting it or reacting it up off 32. More rangy. I don't like the fact that it's popped out here and straight back down again and retested that level. So that would have dragged in a few buyers and squeezing them back out. So whether, okay, that's a squeeze, and that is, so what this move does a lot is just dragging some buyers that buy it on stop through 34.5. Say they got their stop below here. It's dragged them in and straight back down. The pressure's been on since day dot. So they got one day if they bought it on this green candle, the next day they were up, they're looking good, and then bang after that they've been behind the eight ball. So whether that's a prelude to, essentially that's a double top and we're getting a deeper correction through 32, I don't know, because it hasn't shown us anything there that, yep, that's going to happen. But it also hasn't shown us anything just yet that we're going to rally. All right. So if I can get this move up here and say we've just chopped around here, whoops, that's not really what I want to do. We've just been chopping around here. This is probably that breakout here, and we're straight back down. I want to see this level. I want to see that hold up, and I want to see a higher low. I want to work off a higher low, because a higher low to me is just, it's support to my theory that people are willing to buy it. But then I'd be obviously running up against that resistance zone around 34.5 if I bought it off a higher low. But either way, a high low is it's just one of those things you're looking for. It's showing you that someone's eager to buy. That's all it is at higher levels. If people are jumping at higher levels, they're getting a bit eager. Why are they getting eager? Because they think it's going through 34.5 or above, or they're not looking at just for, they're not eager to jump in for 10 cents or so. They're eager to jump in for a few bucks. So that's what I'd be looking for there. BHP we're done. VOC on the call. This is one I had a question about a while ago, a long time ago. Got caned. And I have been keeping an eye on it. So daily, all right, just trying to think through this one. Weekly, you probably got your levels more around that 325, and I would give this a bit more room from my weekly because it's had such a heavy sell-off from $9 down to 225. And I'll just draw out the levels that I'd have on the cards for this focus. I don't know I think they've just come out with something, haven't they? They've been talking it up a bit recently. So this is my zone. Let's just draw it slightly differently. This is more my zone through here. That's your buy zone, say 225. All right, my anchor for me to be interested, say on the weekly chart at least, and I'd probably be preferring this level rather than this minor level. I consider that more of a minor level at 275. But the thing is, the fact that that is a level, it has had a reaction, which we'll show on the daily in a second, is a good sign, but I think it's an early good sign. That's making sense. Up in at 256, so Paul dived in. Good work, mate. Either way, you're winning. It's very low, so I'm happy to take. Yeah. So Paul's got a different risk profile than I have, which is working out great. That's fine. That's really good. I mean, no one's to say, just remember, guys, whatever I preach on about, it works for me, works fine. If it works for you, that's great too. If it doesn't work for you, that's great. If you want to throw in a few more factors, that's also good as long as it works. I mean, who cares what works for you as long as it's working and you're consistent? That's the name of the game. However, we all get to consistency in trading. It doesn't matter which road we take. It's all going to be we're going to the same area, and that's all we're trying to achieve. And it might mean that I don't look at it the same as Paul, but so I have to do a bit more work on looking for different, looking through a whole lot more charts or whatever it means. It doesn't matter. So yeah, that's for me. If it pops up through here, which it's some nice early signs that it's going to do through 325. Again, what I'd be looking for, let's say it's 325. I won't draw it up too much. I want to see, that's not where it is. Just say we chopped around here, we've gone back down here, we're just starting to lift here. I'd be wanting to see, press up through here, and then again, same sort of entry. I want to see it pop up through here, and I think we're going to get that. I wouldn't see how it's looking to be a bit extended. On the daily, I think it's getting a bit extended up here. If we get to sort of that overbought territory and we're up towards 325, I'd expect a bit of a blowout through 325. I wouldn't want to see it react off 325 because then it could just go into more of a range territory, or you could be held down for the next year. You don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, so Paul's talking about the sector as well. Completely agree, mate. Yes, ideally, if that pops up there and we get this high low on the weekly, great. That's where I'll be looking down to the daily, add some risk to it, and then you've got a level here at 475, I guess, which you've got a good run up there, maybe up towards 6, and then you've got right up to that $9 level after that. There's all these sort of resistance zones where if you haven't sold it through here for whatever reason, if someone's holding it above $8, they're just hoping that it gets anywhere near there. They might go, oh, someone with a really low tolerance or patience might get out here. A bit more patience, may get out here if it gets up through there, or might take the risk. So you've got all these different levels that can come into play. You just have to wait and see to see what happens when they get there. So yeah, for me, I'd like to see this type of price action. If you go into the daily looks a bit different. I actually don't mind that. And I can see exactly why Paul's got in, because it's, so this is, no, that's not the level. The level's way up here for me. There was still, it's still a very valid entry, but you've got to take into account slightly different levels. I probably more than missed this. I was looking at it, but it's mainly the weekly that's caught me off guard there. Say that, you can see that type of price action there, and you've got this higher level here. So what you've got is that the market's pressing down from 330. That's on your weekly chart. That's your weekly high low, back down to sort of that 220 zone. It's tested a few times. Is that what I got? Yep, 220. So it's done a lot of work down at here we go. Done a lot of work down at 220. Then what's happened? It's pressed down, popped back up, built a lower high. Okay, that's still looking a bit weak, but then you've got buyers. See, they've done it a few times. They stepped in here, here, and here. And we've got this little pop up and just sort of broke that contraction down. It's a bit of a, maybe a bit of a heads up there. If I draw it clear, it might be. Yeah, okay. So it is a bit of a heads up. Okay, look, something's happening there. And you know that if you were looking to buy it and you bought it probably exactly where Paul did at 256, your risk is down here. Look, that's worth it. And then you might be gunning for that 330 level. Now the bigger picture says if we do back off from 330, Paul's got a lot of buffer up his sleeve. It's a 2-to-1 trade, and he might look to take some off. If he doesn't, so be it. But that's a definite trade from the daily chart, purely based on the daily. Now the weekly, like I said, the weekly for me, I'm looking for it to go 330, maybe a bigger trade on that. But definitely off that daily chart, it was worthwhile. And by the time you bought it through 255, with your risk just below 230, it's broken out of that sort of contraction, and it's showing that the buyers are stepping in at this high level at 230. They're supporting it above 220. They want a piece of the action, probably for the exact reasons Paul was mentioning, the PE and a few other things, I'm guessing. They want to jump in, and by then it's showing that those buyers are winning out. And if you're a seller, you had your first opportunity, which it just blew through at 270. If you're adamant you're going to sell, that buying strength was just too strong. It's just gone straight through 270. So I'd suggest it's heading up towards, looking at that chart, heading up towards that 320 mark. It is just extended, but the daily could stay up, go extend and start to come off, and the market could still be going up. Then you might get, the weekly turns and is looking a bit overextend up at 330. And then you're probably looking at that level as potentially some profit target, or at least taking something off there. But yeah, that's if it goes through 330 in one foul swoop, then okay. I think Paul's picture's gone from maybe smaller time frame to the larger time frame picture, and potentially forgetting about closing it out at 320 and looking a lot higher. It could be have a really good run on. Alrighty, is that probably about it? Oh, we got through them all. That's great. All right, guys, I might call it a day there. It looks like we got through quite a bit. Sorry about the problems at the start. We got through it all right. The stream held up quite nicely, as it didn't on Thursday. We had a problem. Just upgraded the system, so it seemed to have sorted the problems out. It was just me. It was me while I was a bit late. But yeah, thanks very much for joining me, guys. We're back in on Thursday at 12:30 again. I hope you can join me there, and I'll be on time this time. But anyway, have a great day, and we'll speak to you then. Cheers, guys. Bye.